Hello everybody, this is Jack, also known as Crin on the Tricky Gym and Cardboard Warriors Discord. Today I'm going to be talking about my Politoed, Poliwrath, Seismitoad, and Palafin deck. Now, the reason I built this deck is Politoed is my favorite Pokemon. I've always really enjoyed frogs. I used to have a couple pet frogs growing up. And I've always really enjoyed decks where it's kind of more of like a puzzle. I get bored very quickly with decks that are extremely linear. I like decks where you have to figure things out on the fly, and really that's why I love Gym Leader Challenge as a format. It's the reason I'm back playing Pokemon again. I actually stopped playing Pokemon for about 11 years. The last time I played Archie's Blastoise when it was in Standard, long time ago. And, or was it Archie? I played Blastoise Keldeo and a lot of Archie's stuff. It was really enjoyable. And then the local scene started to die out. I went off to college later on, and now I'm just picking it up now that I have a friend group that can play the game again. So overall, the focus of this deck is you want to use Poliwag to rare candy into Politoed. This card is the engine behind the deck, but you want to rare candy into Politoed and use the roll call attack. This puts Poliwhirl and Poliwrath directly onto your bench, and Poliwrath is the main attacker. So you're using its jumping uppercut attack, which for 2 colorless energy does 120, but you can also do 240 instead, and you shuffle the Poliwrath and everything attached to it into your deck. So normally that would be kind of a pain to get back out of your deck because it's a stage 2. But with Politoed, you're able to put the Poliwhirl directly onto your bench. So Poliwrath goes away, you find a way to get it, and you evolve it. So now you have another Poliwrath the next turn that can hit for another 240. So by this point, you've probably taken 2 prize cards off of that. And then Politoed can come up, preferably when there's not much going on the opponent's side, because you've taken out 2 of their biggest threats and slowed them down considerably. Now, if you haven't slowed them down, and they are able to easily knock out the Politoed, well, you probably have Poliwhirl, Poliwrath on your bench. These are in the discard. Well, you can get Politoed back into your hand with a Rescue Stretcher or another recursion card and evolve the Poliwhirl to Politoed. This also works. Now you're stuck only getting Poliwrath, so it's a bit slower, but at this point you've taken half your prize cards and you're in a really good spot. Alternatively, there are some other attackers. Seismitoad, another really good attacker for water. 2 energy, does 120. It can do another 100 damage if it did that attack the previous turn. It also has the Quaking Zone ability, which makes your opponent's attacks cost a colorless more. Very, very valuable. In conjunction with Poliwrath, you're able to hit really hard and disrupt just enough to really put the pressure on. And on the topic of putting the pressure on, nothing really puts pressure like 210 damage on turn 2. Palafin with Finizen, a lot of times you will be using Valiant Evolution going second. Just a really, really good card. Justice Kick. It does 210 only if it moved from the bench to the active. I will say Jet Punch does come up. I have won games on a Jet Punch at the end of the game when I've ran out of switch cards and we're at a really dead part of the game and Palafin just finishes off the last point of damage. So, yeah. For other Pokemon, the support. I would consider Politoed a support Pokemon in the deck. However, I'm not including it here. So we have Octillery with the Abyssal Hand to draw up to 5 cards every turn. You have Inteleon and Drizzile with Shady Dealings. These two here, Consistency Engine for water, just incredible cards. They're the reason you want to play a water deck. Just very good consistency. You can't really get much better than this. Aside from that, this is some recent additions. I'm playing Milotic, which gets a card from your discard back into your hand when you evolve it. Now, this card really came in due to losing games because my Luxurious Cape got field blowered, a big knockout happened, and now I'm getting one-shot by everything. So being able to get back Luxurious Cape and really it gives you an extra turn. In addition, it's really good early game where you get back Rare Candy and you can really go fast. You just get back whatever you need. Just really nice card. So that's it for the Pokemon. Aside from that, I have played Castform and Alolan Vulpix in the deck. However, Castform, I did find myself really struggling for bench space, so I ended up cutting it. And Alolan Vulpix, I feel like it's worse than a lot of the supporters that you have access to, namely Erazu. Now, Erazu is a very good recent addition. So this was recommended to me. And it's genuinely really good. Spence72 in the Cardboard Warriors Discord mentioned this card. I tried it out and it's been unbelievable. It sets you up so fast. It might not be the best later on, but a lot of times if you're shuffling Poliwrath into your deck, Erazu does go and get the Poliwrath. Guaranteed. So it's not a dead card late game. This deck, every single one of the Pokemon can evolve. Unless they're the final evolution, and in that case, you're fine. So Erazu gets almost it gets more than half your Pokemon. I play 16 Pokemon, and 6 of them are basics. This card is amazing. For other Pokemon search, I have Ball Guy and Irida. Irida is the best supporter in the deck. It just gets whatever you need in a given time. Very strong for getting the early Politoed. Just getting Rare Candy Politoed and you're good is very useful. Ball Guy, it kind of functions similar to Erazu. However, being able to get basics very early on turn 1 is incredibly useful. So I like that as well. And then for just a little bit more consistency, I like playing Arven. The item cards, a lot of times you're playing this to get Buddy Poffin or VS Seeker. It's just a very useful card. Rare Candy as well. This deck is very heavily item focused. And Arven is very good, and the tools in the deck are very important as well. For card draw, just pure card draw, I have Kofu and Iono. Now, Iono, self-explanatory, just draw. Really good card. And Kofu. Now, the reason I'm playing Kofu is Politoed only works when Poliwrath and Poliwhirl are in your deck. Now, if you have them in your hand, that can be a problem. Kofu allows you to put cards from your hand on the bottom of your deck, which is very relevant. Especially with Octillery, where you want to have less than 5 cards in your hand to draw up to Octillery. Now, if you have 3 supporters and you can only use one of them a turn, you're not going to be able to draw very easily with Octillery. And let's say some of your supporters are not useful at a time, Kofu's really good at putting them back into the deck so you can get them later and drawing fresh cards. So I really appreciate Kofu. It's really, really handy. And yeah, so another card, Raihan, great consistency card, really good coming from behind. The energy attachment is really nice for getting a Poliwrath set up quickly. Let's say you knock out one of their Pokemon with a Poliwrath, you shuffle it away, they knock out the Pokemon that you bring up. Now Raihan can set up the Poliwrath for the next turn, and you're attacking immediately. So for recovery, you have Nessa. Puts 4 water Pokemon and water energy cards in any combination into your hand. Usually that's more than you need. Really good at just resetting. It allows you, with this deck, you can get multiple Milotics if they knock it out. You can get multiple Inteleons. You know, really, really good card. Probably the best recursion that I can get in this deck. And then for switch cards, I'm playing Mallow and Lena and Guzma. Guzma, it's incredible. Not only does it win games by itself, it works amazingly with Palafin. It works really, really well just with how the deck functions, where you want to be switching out your Pokemon, and being able to pull something up and get it out of there is really nice. Mallow and Lena, the discard effect is very useful. Usually you're not healing a full 120. Sometimes you are, and usually that's because you have a Luxurious Cape on something. And in that situation, Mallow and Lena is very useful. The discarding 2 cards is also great with Octillery. You get to draw more cards. Just a very nice card. A lot of utility in the deck. And on the topic of switch cards, I have Escape Rope and Switch Raft. Just ways to switch out your Pokemon. Escape Rope, really good, gets your opponent to switch as well. That can really help you out. Just get things set up, get a knockout, really handy. Switch Raft, it's a strictly better switch for this deck. And this deck would probably play Switch if Switch Raft didn't exist. Really, really good card. In addition, I consider Scoop Up Net a switch card in this deck, kind of. You do use it a lot. So in the event that you have a Palafin on your bench, you don't have a free retreater, and they knock out one of your Pokemon, you can send up like an Inteleon or a Milotic, and then Scoop Up Net. And now Palafin can hit for 210. You get to replay your Drizzile. You get to replay your Milotic. It's really nice. Really good card. And just as some extra retreat, Floatstone, it's really, really nice. Anything in the deck has free retreat. Usually, I would say you sometimes want to put that on Seismitoad. But honestly, I really like putting Luxurious Cape on it instead. Then there's Air Balloon, which gives most of your Pokemon free retreat. It's very useful. Just with Palafin, you do want 2 Pokemon to have retreat tools, because Palafin, if Palafin doesn't have free retreat, its retreat cost is rather expensive at 2 energies, and I don't really want to be paying that. Aside from that, Luxurious Cape. This card is amazing here. And the reason for that is Poliwrath does have the alternate ability of just hitting for 120 for 2 energies. And at 270 health, it'll be hard to knock it out. And because of that, Luxurious Cape is very good there. And if it takes 2 hits to knock it out, well, now you can just shuffle it back into your deck on your next turn. So you get another attack off, which is very nice. Another thing is with Seismitoad. Seismitoad with 270 HP is very hard to knock out. And the one thing is, if Seismitoad I don't know why it's weak to electric. It drives me crazy because Seismitoad is a ground type, but here we are. In the electric matchup, Seismitoad is very important because you need to slow them down, and 270 HP cannot be one-shot by the majority of electric attackers, whereas the rest of your deck can. For recursion, I have Versus Seeker, just great utility, Super Rod, and Rescue Stretcher. Just get back whatever you need. Really, really useful cards. And then for energies, energy recursion, I have Aqua Patch. This is very useful for powering up Poliwrath quickly. You can sometimes hard retreat Palitoed to power up Aqua Patch, or use it to get Raihan. Very good card. And then other ways to search up energy, I have Team Aqua's Great Ball and Capacious Bucket. Team Aqua's Great Ball is very nice with Ball Guy. Getting a water energy off of Ball Guy is incredibly useful. It has allowed me to get off the turn 2 Politoed quickly, a lot more consistently, just because Ball Guy allows you to get the Dive Ball, the Ultra Ball, and the Team Aqua's Great Ball, which can get you Drizzile, Politoed, Rare Candy, and an energy, which is very nice. Capacious Bucket, it just gets you 2 water energies. You could play Professor's Letter. You could honestly cut it if you really wanted to. I wouldn't recommend it. I do like having the extra search just in case. We don't play a lot of energy, so it's nice to have. For the search for the Pokemon, we have Buddy-Buddy Poffin, Dive Ball, Ultra Ball, Evolution Incense, Level Ball, Nest Ball, and Quick Ball. And then there's one other card that is very nice here, and it's Pokemon Communication. And the reason this card is so good here is because of shuffling Poliwrath back into your deck. Because if you draw it, you do not want it. So shuffling it into your deck is very nice. Being able to get another Pokemon as a result of it is also very nice. Just a very, very good use for the card. And then Hisuian Heavy Ball gets cards out of your prizes if you really need it. On the topic of getting cards out of your prizes, Exchange Ticket. So this card is not out yet. It's Rotom Dex, except it puts the cards on the bottom of your deck. So you would shuffle your prize cards, put them on the bottom of your deck, and then put cards from the top of your deck into your prizes. Now, this is really nice for a few reasons. With Poliwrath, if you're playing Peonia or Gladion, you don't want Poliwrath in your hand. So pulling it directly out of your prizes is not good. You want it in your deck. That said, you also don't want to draw it. So if you Exchange Ticket, shuffle it into your deck, let's say you had Rotom Dex instead. You shuffle it into your deck, and then you use Octillery's Abyssal Hand to draw up to 5. Now you draw your Poliwrath. You're in the same spot that you started at. Whereas Exchange Ticket, it goes on the bottom. So really, really handy. Then I have Brooklet Hill, just more consistency. Search for whatever you need for basic Pokemon. Really, really good early game. Not so great late game, but it is what it is. And then I'm playing Chaotic Swell and Field Blower as Disruption. Now, I would not recommend getting rid of Field Blower. Chaotic Swell I've considered replacing with Pokemon League Headquarters to get even more disruption on the energy costs. However, I think it's good as it is. You really don't like Parallel City in this deck. Just really annoying to deal with. You do have Politoed, Poliwrath, Poliwhirl, Octillery, Inteleon a lot of times. So that's already 4 bench spaces. And you really don't... I mean, you can discard Inteleon to Parallel City, and that's not terrible. But it really doesn't feel good. So I like to run Chaotic Swell just to prevent that. or at least make it more difficult, and it helps you kind of just not worry about it as much. But yeah, and then to energies. Splash Energy, really good from dealing with Lost City. Just prevents your Pokemon from getting Lost Zone. They go back into your hand. It's really nice. I will say, do not attach this to Poliwrath. If you attach it to Poliwrath, it will go into your hand and you cannot search it out. Now, if you do attach it to Poliwrath, you want the Poliwhirl on your bench. Because then if they knock out Poliwrath, it goes back to your hand and you can manually evolve the Poliwhirl. Now, that doesn't happen very often. Usually that's if you're only doing 120. Most of the time you're shuffling the Poliwrath back into your deck to deal 240. So, Splash Energy is usually not very good on that. I will say, however, it is very good on Politoed and Palafin and Seismitoad, because they are incredibly good at getting out there and putting pressure on, and you want them back. So, very good card. Double Colorless Energy and Twin Energy. These are pretty much only used to attack with Poliwrath, mainly because you are shuffling it back into your deck. Trying to get one card out of your deck can be difficult. You do have some ways to do it, but I was playing Guzma and Hala at one point. I really didn't enjoy using it for pretty much one card. I was playing Colress's Tenacity. Really didn't feel good either. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan. And then 5 basic Water Energy. These, you don't really need a lot of energy with this deck. Most of your Pokemon do not require very much. But yeah, so overall, Seismitoad, Poliwrath, Palafin are your main attackers. Let's see. Politoed, Milotic, Octillery, and Drizzile and Inteleon are your support Pokemon. There are a few honorable mentions in the deck. Tate and Liza is a big one. I've had that in the deck for the longest time. I recently cut it to add in the the Arazu. I really like the Arazu. The main thing with Tate and Liza is I found myself basically never using the switch part. It was incredibly rare. And because of that, I felt like playing another supporter that would draw more cards was better. Another few cards, I was playing Alolan Vulpix and Cast Form, Rainy Form, just as other support Pokemon. I do feel like Milotic fills that role just a little bit better. I was playing Ordinary Rod over Super Rod. I think it's really negligible. So if you only have one, it doesn't really matter a whole lot. I'm kind of in between on it. I'm not really sure which one's better. I was also playing Lena's Fishing Rod. That shuffles a Pokemon and a Pokemon tool card from your discard into your deck. I ended up cutting that when I added in the Milotic. I don't think it's entirely necessary. Counter Energy is another consideration. For me, I don't really like it because I do feel like you're able to get ahead on prizes more often than not. And the other issue is Counter Energy is a colorless energy when you are equal or ahead on prizes. And the only Pokemon that can use a colorless energy, well, it's really only one, and it's Poliwrath. So in that situation, double colorless energy is just better. And the thing with double colorless energy is you can use it to retreat Palafin, Milotic, Octillery. It just gives you a little bit more ability to retreat, which is very nice. Some other cards. Gladian, as I've said, if you don't like Exchange Ticket or you're playing before the set comes out, I would play Gladian. I think it's the most consistent. You don't really need Peonia in this style of deck. I think you really just want a card out of the prizes. The one concern, you could also play Rotom Dex, which is what I currently have in the Cardboard Warriors deck list, which is in the description. But yeah, that's another option. I was playing Colress. Now, I personally am not a fan with Octillery. I think Colress draws too many cards, actually, which can be annoying late game. And then another thing I was playing the Rapid Strike Sobble and Remoraid. Now, the reason I ended up cutting them is because 70 HP is a very important number to hit. And I personally do think that 70 HP is important enough to not lose early games, so I cut them. That said, for doing what your deck wants to do, the Rapid Strike Sobble and Remoraid, and even the Rapid Strike Feebas would be better for progressing your own game. I just feel like these are a little bit safer, and considering you're a deck with a lot of Stage 2s, it's a little risky. Another card that I previously had was Lily's Pokédoll. For the same reason as Cast Form, I don't think you really have a lot of bench space, so I cut it. I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't think it was very good. Guzman, Hala, and Pot Helmet. The thing with Pot Helmet is it doesn't really bring your Pokemon to a level that stops them from getting knocked out from what you're worried about. Usually what you want to prevent knockouts is getting up to, from this deck, 240. You want to get above 240, so you want to get to 250 HP. And Pot Helmet doesn't do that. There's really only one card that does it, and that's Luxurious Cape. So yeah, Guzman Hala, it's fine. You could play it. The thing is that this deck doesn't really need stadiums all that much. Tool cards, Arven, you really only need the one. And Special Energy, yeah, it's great, but you also can just manually attach, and it's not the end of the world. It might be a little slower. Usually that's not going to matter too much. But yeah, overall, I am very happy with the deck. I recently took it to a local event and went 2-1 with it. The one loss was to Psychic. Combination of a bad draw. I probably could have played better. But even in that loss, I was able to get the Poliwrath loop going, and I had a lot of fun with the deck, which is really the important thing. I mean, you don't want to play a deck that's not fun. But yeah,